Okay, so for your reading today, we are moving on to a new book called The Butterfly Lion, which is written by Michael Morpurgo. Okay, before we go on, make your predictions. So speak to someone in your house about what you think this book, what's going to happen in this book, what is this book going to be about. Use the front cover to help you, use the title to help you. Have any of you ever read any of Michael Morpurgo's other books? If not, I would recommend it. He's a really, really good author and writes some fantastic books. So see if you enjoy this one, and if you do, it might be something when we come back to school that you could have a look in the library for, because I know we've got lots of Michael Morpurgo books. Okay, the chapters in this book, guys, are a little bit longer, so we're going to be reading a chapter a day. Okay, as always, pause it when you get a new page, try and read it yourself, and then I will read it and you can read along with me. Just chapter 1 today, on Thursday the 30th of April. Okay, this is not chapter 1, okay? It's the first 2 pages of the book, okay, but they are important. The book is written by Michael Morpurgo, and over here he has dedicated it to Virginia McKenna, okay? The Butterfly Lion. The Butterfly Lion grew from several magical roots. The memories of a small boy who tried to run away from school a long time ago. A book about a pride of white lions discovered by Chris McBride. A chance meeting in a lift with Virginia McKenna, actress and champion of lions and all creatures born free. A true story of a soldier of the First World War who rescued some circus animals in France from certain death, and the sighting from a train of a white horse carved out of a chalky hillside near Westbury in Wiltshire. To Chris McBride, to Virginia McKenna, and to Gina Pollinger, many, many thanks, and to you, reader, enjoy it. Michael Morpurgo wrote that in February 1996. Okay, so chapter 1. Chilblains and semolina pudding. Butterflies live only short lives. They flower and flutter for just a few glorious weeks and then they die. To see them, you have to be in the right place at the right time, and that's how it was when I saw the butterfly lion. I happened to be in just the right place at just the right time. I didn't dream him. I didn't dream any of it. I saw him, blue and shimmering in the sun one afternoon in June when I was young, a long time ago. But I don't forget. I mustn't forget. I promised them I would. I was 10 and away at boarding school in deepest Wiltshire. I was far from home and didn't want to be. It was a diet of Latin and stew and rugby and attentions and cross-country runs and chilblains and marks and squeaky beds and semolina pudding. And then there was Basher Beaumont, who terrorised and tormented me, so that I lived every waking moment of my life in dread of him. I often thought of running away, but only once ever plucked up the courage to do it. I was homesick after a letter from my mother. Basher Beaumont had cornered me in the boot room and smeared black shoe polish in my hair. I had done badly in a spelling test, and Mr. Carter had stood me in the corner with a book on my head all through the lesson, his favourite torture. I was more miserable than I had ever been before. I picked at the plaster in the wall and determined there and then that I would run away. I took off the next Sunday afternoon. With any luck, I wouldn't be missed till supper, and by that time I'd be home and free. Home and free, sorry. I climbed the fence at the bottom of the school park, behind the trees where I couldn't be seen. Then I ran for it. I ran as if bloodhounds were after me, not stopping till I was through Innocent's Breach and out onto the road beyond. I had my escape all planned. I would walk to the station, it was only 5 miles or so, and catch the train to London. Then I'd take the underground home. I'd just walk in and tell them that I was never, ever going back. There wasn't much traffic, but all the same, I turned up the collar of my raincoat so that no one could catch a glimpse of my uniform. It was beginning to rain now. Those heavy, hard drops means that's more of the same on the way. I crossed the road and ran along the wide grass verge under the shelter of the trees. Beyond the grass verge was a high brick wall, much of it covered in ivy. It stretched away into the distance, continuous as far as the eye could see. except for a massive arched gateway at the bend of the road. A great stone lion bestrode the gateway. As I came closer, I could see he was roaring in the rain, his lip curled, his teeth bared. I stopped and stared up at him for a moment. That was when I heard a car slowing down behind me. I did not think twice. I pushed open the iron gate, darted through, and flattened myself behind the stone pillar. I watched the car until it disappeared around the bend. To be caught would mean a caning. 4 strokes, maybe 6, across the back of my knees. Worse, I would be back at school, back to detentions, back to Basher Beaumont. To go along the road was dangerous. Too dangerous. I would try and cut across the country to the station. It would be longer that way, but far safer. Okay, that's the end of chapter 1. Again, we have got our 5 quick fire questions. Okay, question 1. What was the bully called at school? So what was the name of the bully? What had made the boy homesick? You'll find that on page 5. What do you think the narrator means when he says, ran as if bloodhounds were after me? On page 6. How would the boy get punished if he was caught? Page 8. And when did the boy escape? Pause the video, go back over your text that you've downloaded, reread the chapter if you need to, have a go at answering those. Okay, good job. The bully at school was called Basher Beaumont. A letter from his mother made the boy homesick. And we're calling him the boy because we still don't know his name, do we? Okay. The narrator meant that the boy ran really fast when he said he ran as if bloodhounds were after him. If the boy gets caught, he'll be punished by getting caned across the back of his knees. Okay, that used to happen in schools in the olden days. Okay, they didn't just get told off or asked to stay in at playtime. They used to get hit with a cane, so it was really quite aggressive and painful for children. When did the boy escape? The boy escaped on a Sunday afternoon. So 3 questions that need a bit more brain power. Question 6, read page 2 again. As we said, it's not a part of the story. Why is this bit still important for the reader, do you think? Have a think about that one, that's a bit tricky. Question 7, what do we know about the narrator of the story after reading this chapter? You can use page 5 and 6 to help you. And question 8, how does Michael Morpurgo use senses effectively to describe the boy's escape? Okay, you've got your sentence stems there. Remember to answer your questions in full sentences. Pause the video now while you have a go. Use the page directors to help you know which page you need to go to, and unpause when you are done. Okay, question 6. Page 2, this page here, is not part of the story. Why is it important? Okay. Have a think. Has anyone got any ideas? Yeah, okay, you're right. So, it tells us where the butterfly lion grew from. Okay, so grew from, obviously is not a plant, it's a book. He's Michael Morpurgo, who's written it, and we know this because he signs it off at the bottom. Michael Morpurgo is telling us where he got his inspiration from. Okay, because as a writer, you're always looking for inspiration, for ideas. Okay, he is telling us at the start of this book, his inspiration came from several magical roots, and then he goes on to tell us. Okay, at the start of this book, and I hadn't read this book before, guys. At the start of this book, I read that and it didn't really mean much to me. Okay, I thought, I wonder why he's telling us that, to tell us where he got his inspiration from or his ideas from. I get that, but they're all quite random bits of inspiration. Okay, random ideas, and they didn't fit together. Having read the book, okay, and going back to this page and reading it to you guys, it makes complete sense. So that is something that I would suggest that you do, or recommend that you do when you have read the book. Okay, come back and read this page. Okay, because it makes a lot more sense when you've read it. So this part is important for the reader because it tells us where Michael Morpurgo got his inspiration and his ideas for the story from. What do we know about the narrator of the story after reading this chapter? Okay, use page 5 and 6 to help you. So, We don't know. We've already said we don't know the name of the narrator. Okay. But there is some information that you could write into your answer here. So, again, there's no correct answer. It's just the information that you can find. So we're going to have a look at the information you could have included in your answer. Okay, so the narrator was 10. He was away at boarding school. He was far from home, and he didn't want to be, which probably makes him feel how? Probably quite sad, doesn't it? Quite sad and alone. It was a diet of Latin and stew and rugby and detentions and cross-country runs and chilblains and marks and squeaky beds. Are all of those things positive things, do you think? Are they things that he likes about boarding school, or do you think they're things that he dislikes? Have a think about that. Try and work it into your answers. Okay. We know that there is a boy at school, Basher Beaumont, who terrorised and tormented me. So he's not very kind. Okay, so you could add that into your answer. We know that the narrator of this story is, you could say, enemies, or has a dislike for one of the boys called Basher Beaumont, who is unkind to him. You could say he often thinks about running away. He's homesick, we know that. He was miserable, and that's really sad. Okay, so there are lots of things there that you can add into your answer. Okay, how does Michael Morpurgo use senses effectively to describe the boy's escape? So there is lots on page 7 and 8 of what the boy is seeing, a lot of descriptive language, okay, to really build the suspense and also to build up the picture for us as the reader, okay. Beyond the grass verge was a high brick wall, okay. He tells us that to add effect, okay, to paint the picture for us, because Michael Morpurgo could have just said there was a wall. Much of it was covered in ivy, okay. But instead he's saying beyond the grass verge was a high brick wall, much of it covered in ivy. He really paints that picture for us, doesn't he, and helps us to envisage what it actually looks like. It's stretched away into the distance. So not only is he telling us there's a wall, he's telling us how far the wall goes on, continuous for as far as the eye could see, okay, except for a massive gated archway at the bend of the road, okay. A great lion bestrode the gate, okay. Again, he's not just telling us about this lion, he then goes on to paint the picture even further. As I came closer, I could see that he was roaring in the rain. His lip, it's not, let me underline that. His lip curled, his teeth bared. Okay, so it's about giving us extra detail. Okay, so that's what he can see. On page 8, it goes on to tell us what the boy can hear. Okay, that was when I heard the car slowing down behind me. Again, that's a little bit of detail that adds suspense. He's not just saying, then I heard a car, okay? He's building up tension and suspense, saying, I heard a car slowing down behind me. It's making us as the reader think, oh my goodness, who's in the car? Why is it stopping? Have they seen him? Has he been caught? It's posing all of those questions in our head. So he does that really effectively. Okay.
Hi Class 4, hope you're all okay and finding the maths learning to be alright. I'm just going to go through the answers now for the do it and secure it from yesterday, okay? And then we'll move on to today's learning. So the first part of your do it was to tell me what time was shown on the clocks. So for A, I'm hoping that you got 25 past 2 because you've got your hour hand between the 2 and the 3. And you've got your minute hand here on the 5, which is 25. So it's 25 past 2 because the hour is going past the 2. Okay. For B, hopefully we had 5 to 12 because our hour hand's coming up to the 12. And our minute hand is on the 11, which means 5 to. And C is 1:15 because our hour hand is just gone past 1. And our minute hand is on the 3, which means 1/4 past. So fingers crossed you got those. If you're looking at this and thinking, oh my goodness, I've not got this, I've got this completely wrong and I don't know why, please send me an email. I'm more than happy to go through it with you, okay? So now you have to either use a clock or draw a picture of a clock to show the following time. So we had 20 to 3. So for this one, it should look something like this. Your minute hand should be on the 8 because that means 22. And your hour hand should be coming just about up to the 3. Then you have to show me 6:30. That should look like this. Your hour hand's just going past your 6 there, and your minute hand is bang on the 6, okay? And then 25 to 9 should look like this. Your hour hand here is just going up towards the 9, and your minute hand is on the 7 because it's 25 to. Okay? Okay, so for your Do It Extra challenge, if you got onto this, you needed to find the odd one out, okay? So the first thing you needed to do was look at the 3 clocks and see which of the letters it matched. So let's look at the first one. We can see here that the minute hand is on the 8, which means 22. And our hour hand is between the 7 and the 8, so it must be 20 to 8, meaning that it was letter A, not number A. Okay, number 2. The minute hand is on the 9, so that's 1:45. And our hour hand is just coming up to the 9, so we're looking at 9:45, which is the letter C. Finally, we've got our minute hand on the 4, so it's 20 past. And our hand, our hour hand going past the 8, so it must be D. Therefore, B is the odd one out because it doesn't match any of the clocks. And then finally, for your Secure It yesterday, Dora said that the clock shows 10 minutes to 3. Amir argued, though, that the hour hand is not quite pointing to the 3, so it must be 10 to 2. So we can see that the minute hand here is on the 10, so we know it's 10 to, so that's correct. But here it's coming up towards the 3, so actually Dora is correct because the hour hand is between the 2 and the 3, and it's coming up towards the 3, so it's 10 to 3. Okay, any sort of explanation like that would have been great. Okay, so today we're going to build on from what we did yesterday, and we're going to explore telling the time to the nearest minute. Okay guys, so yesterday we looked at telling the time to the nearest 5 minutes. We looked at the fact that we've got our o'clock at number 12, our 1/4 at 3, our 1/2 at 6, and our 1/4 at 9, okay? We also talked about the fact that this half of the clock is our minutes past, and this half of the clock is our minutes to. Okay, now that's really important to remember because we're now going to be doing it to the minute. Okay, so it's you've got the base of it from yesterday, but this is just adding on to it, so it's just a little bit more complicated. It's nothing to worry about. Okay, so I've got this clock on here, which I think is going to really help you. Well, I hope it does, because it splits the clock in half for your minutes past and your minutes to. And instead of writing that 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, it tells you the amount that it is to the hour. So for here, we looked yesterday, it was 35, but actually it's 25 to the hour. Okay. So it's really important to remember that once we have got to 1/2 past the hour, or 30 minutes past the hour, it then becomes to the hour, okay? And that's when we count back. So rather than saying it's 31 minutes past the hour, we say it's 29 minutes to the hour, okay? So when we're going through the video and doing the questions, etc., you can always come back to this clock to have a look at to help you. All right. So I want you to have a look at the time on the clock at the moment. The hour hand is pointing towards the 2, and our minute hand is here at the 8. Okay, so what time do you think the clock is showing? Hopefully you've decided that the clock shows 8 minutes to 2. Okay, let's have a go at some without using this clock, but if you want to come back to it, that's what it's here for. All right. Okay, so I'd like you to have a go at either writing down or thinking in your head what time the clock shows. Okay, so pause me while you do that and then come back when you're ready. Okay, so hopefully you got that it shows 23 minutes past 2. We know this because the hour hand is here and it's just gone past the 2. And if we count down, we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 21, 22, 23. So it's 23 minutes past 2. Okay, so is the clock showing 29 minutes to 3, 9 minutes to 6, or 11 minutes past 6? Okay, have a look. What do you think? Pause me while you're doing that and then come back when you're ready. Hopefully we all agreed that it is 11 minutes past 6. And we know this because our hour hand here has just gone past the 6. And our hand over here is 1 more past 10. So we've got 10 past here and then 1 more. So it becomes 11 minutes past 6. Okay. So the time is 21 minutes to 3. Which arrow is the correct minutes hand? Okay. Is it A, B, or C? Have a think. Pause me while you're thinking and then come back when you're ready. So hopefully we all agreed that the answer is C. And the reason for that is we knew straight away it wasn't going to be B because in the question it says it's 2, 3. So it's got to be on this side of the clock, okay? And then we could have either counted backwards or we could have used what we know. This point here is 22. So if it's going to be more than 20 minutes, it's going to be this side of the of 22. So it must be C, okay? For your do it today, you need to write down the time shown on the clocks, okay? So some of them have got all of the numbers from 1 to 12 on. Some have got 12, 3, 6 and 9, and some have got the Roman numerals, okay? So have a go, see what you can do. Any problems, just send me an email, okay? There is an extra do it challenge today if you get through the original do it really quickly and just want a little bit of an extra something to do. So you can either use a clock if you've got one at home, or you can just draw a clock face. And I'd like you to show me 3 minutes past 4, 22 minutes to 8 and 29 minutes past 6. Okay, good luck. Then finally for today, you'll secure it. True or false? At 9 minutes past 11, the minute hand is pointing between the 12 and the 1. Okay, you need to decide whether that's true or false, and then you need to be able to explain why. Okay, and we'll go through the answers tomorrow. Any problems, just send me an email, guys. Okay, bye.
Hi everybody, welcome to Thursday's writing. I hope you managed to get on okay with your story start that you were doing yesterday. We're going to finish that off and complete that today, and we're going to be looking at the middle part of your story. But first of all, we're going to start off with our sentence spotters. So remembering that we're looking at parts of speech, we're looking for those verbs, those nouns, those adverbs and those adjectives. Hopefully by now you're getting into the swing of this and really understanding what each of those things are. Remember that the nouns are the naming things, and the verbs are what's happening in the sentence, the action in the sentence. Adverbs are describing those verbs, so we need to be looking for those, and our adjectives are telling us about our nouns. So finding our nouns and our verbs first really help in this situation. So let's have a look at the first 2 sentences for today. The brown horse appeared proudly at the starting line, and carefully she looked for the old unused book on the shelf. So have a little think. Pause the video, write them down, label your noun, your adjective, your verbs and your adverbs in each of these sentences, and then come back to us so we can go through the answers. Okay, brilliant. Okay, when we're looking at these, remember I always start with the nouns first, the names of the things in the sentence. So the first one, the brown horse appeared proudly at the starting line. We've got horse, we've got line, and hopefully you've worked out that that is a noun phrase, and we've actually got starting line as one of our nouns, okay? We then want to find out what's happening in the sentence, what's the horse doing. So he appeared, so appeared is our verb. The horse is described by the word brown, so that's our adjective, the brown horse. And how did he appear? He appeared proudly, so that's our adverb in that sentence. So well done if you managed to spot all of those. Second sentence today. Carefully she looked for the old unused book on the shelf. So what was she looking for? Okay, so what are our objects? A book and a shelf. What was she doing? She was looking, so our verb is our looked. How did she look? Our adverb, carefully. And what did the books look like? They were old and unused, so those are our adjectives today. So well done if you spotted both of those two adjectives. We haven't done a sentence like that one before, so well done if you managed to spot all of those. So today for our writing, we are writing our adventure story. We are going to be moving on today from meeting our characters and finding out a problem, which we wrote yesterday. And we're going to be doing this middle section. So number 2, number 3 and number 4. So I'm going to give you lots and lots of time to actually do your writing today. Okay. So yesterday we wrote the part about the introducing the characters. So I wrote about the hero, I wrote about the villain, and we started to talk about the problem. So today we're going on to that story development, that middle section. Now this can sometimes be a bit where we find it a little bit more difficult in our sentence, in our work to engage the reader, because we're trying to tell them everything that's happened, but we need to do it in a way that really enthralls and engages them. So let's have a little look at some story development from Fantastic Mr. Fox, which we're basing our adventure story on, and see if we can find some little bits and pieces that we like that we can take into our own writing today. Okay, so Boggis and Bunce and Bean knew very well what was going on, and it made them wild with rage. They were not men who liked to give anything away. Less still did they like anything to be stolen from them. So every night each of them would take his shotgun and hide in a dark place somewhere on his own farm, hoping to catch the robber. But Mr. Fox was too clever for them. He always approached a farm with the wind blowing in his face, and this meant if any man were lurking in the shadows ahead, the wind would carry the smell of that man to Mr. Fox's nose from far away. Thus, if Mr. Boggis was hiding behind his chicken house number 1, Mr. Fox would smell him out from 50 yards off and quickly change direction, heading for chicken house number 4 at the other end of the farm. So hopefully you can see that this is still engaging, this is still interesting part of the story, even though we're trying to tell them what's happening. So I've underlined on there 3 things that I really liked in this section. They were not men who liked. I quite liked that as a story starter. I like to have the idea of a dark place, a bit of a description going on to be able to mingle that in with the action that I'm trying to put in. And then I also like this sentence because it really appealed to me, as Mr. Fox was too clever for them. And I thought that was something I maybe could repeat as I was walking through my own story. So I'd like to have a little pause now, look at this part of the story development. Do you like the same bits that I like? Is there something else in there you think, oh, I just want to make a quick note of that because I might be able to use that in my own story? Okay, so hopefully you found just something, just one little bit that you might be able to use as you move into your next story. Okay, so today we're going to be writing an adventure story. We're going to be writing that middle part of the story, and I'm going to write that first little bit with you, and I'm going to try my best to use some of the tips that I had from the previous bit of text that we've looked at. So here we go. So let's have a look at my part of the story. So I wanted to tell my reader that Mrs. Bates was cross, so she put a scarecrow in the cornfield to stop the corn from being eaten by the lark. But the lark was too clever, and therefore he went to the berry bush instead. Okay, so this is my part of my story. The new family were not as forgiving as the old one. They were not a family who liked to give anything away, least of all Mrs. Bates. So she quickly made it her mission to stop the larks from stealing their crops. One morning, when Mr. Lark was visiting his favourite cornfield, he was shocked to find a mean-looking scarecrow standing guard over his precious crops. Quaking with fright, Mr. Lark left the cornfield in search of something else for his family to eat. It didn't take him long before he happened upon Mrs. Bates's cottage garden. The garden was like a huge buffet, stuffed full to the brim with yummy plants, fruits, nuts and seeds. Okay, so that is my next part of my story as an example to show you what you might want to do in your story. So today you're going to be writing the second part of your story. You're going to be writing about how the villain sets a trap but the hero escapes, how they set another trap, and then how the hero is starving and he has to come up with a plan. So your activities for today are, you could write 3 paragraphs for the main body of your story. So 1, 2, 3. And remember to look back at the story plan you created on Tuesday to help you to remember what you were going to put in. If you want a bit of an extra challenge today, really start to think about those bits that we looked at when we looked at the text, those author tricks, those author tips to help to make it a really engaging piece. That's what I want you to try and do if you can, to really engage the reader. And remember that they want to carry on reading your story as you go through. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video and write the middle section of your story. If you want to go back, you can do. You can always have a look at the story that I wrote and use some of my ideas. You can have a look at the story that Roald Dahl wrote and use some of his ideas to help you as well. You need your plan with you so that you can help you to write this story, but today's lesson is all about giving you some time to actually get on with writing that middle part of your story, and then come back to me once you've finished. Okay, so well done for writing the middle part of your adventure story, remembering that our purpose of our story is always to enthrall our reader. We want to keep them engaged and interested right until the very end of our story. So what you need to do, if you want to have a look back on your story, is to read it from the start. So read your introduction part that we wrote yesterday and the bit that you've written today. If you're reading it, do you want to find out what happens next? If you read it to somebody else, would they want to find out what happens next? Did you use any of those author tools, tips, techniques? And did they work? And how do you know that they worked? So have a little think back on your story and see if there's anything you can do to improve it. The final part of our learning today obviously is our connected curriculum. This has been the same all week, but remembering that we're learning about the water cycle. So if you only want to do one thing this week to do with connected curriculum, have a little look at the essential activity which is in your work pack. This will give you all of the information that you need to know about the water cycle, and that will give you some new knowledge. And then if you want to do something with that knowledge, remember you've got perhaps a science experiment, a poster, a creative writing opportunity, a story opportunity, or a video. And if you want to create any of those to tell us about the water cycle, that would be amazing. But remember to pick and choose what works best for you. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you tomorrow with your new learning. Thanks guys, bye.